All right. Good afternoon, folks, and good morning to our West Coasters. Welcome to the Economic Adjustment and Assistance installment of EDA's American Rescue Plan programming webinars. We will get into the great stuff, the important stuff in one moment. But before we do, I do want to address at the top of this call that you bet it, you betcha, we will be posting these slides, following on with frequently asked questions and other resources regularly for the next coming weeks as materials are updated and matured with more customer engagement. So please stay tuned for that. And for the operations of today's webinar, please use the Q&A box for your questions, not the chat box. Again, please insert questions into the Q&A box so we can organize them and try to get to as many of them as possible today. So to start things off, I would like to introduce our great Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy, Ms. Michelle Chang, to lead us off on today's webinar.
Great. Thanks so much, Craig, and thanks everyone for being on the line with us today. We are super excited to continue our series on the American Rescue Plan Act programs. Hopefully some of you were able to join us last week as we dived into a few of these programs, and as well as this week as we dive into the remaining. Just to give everyone an overview who have not joined us before, this is a really historic moment for the Economic Development Administration. We are investing $3 billion to help America's communities really recover from this pandemic. And for those who aren't familiar, EDA has really taken an unprecedented approach to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the coronavirus pandemic, and for really think about how we can use these funds for necessary expenses to respond to the economic injury as a result of the pandemic. And so our programs are really designed to, one, accelerate the economic recovery from the pandemic, but also two, to build local economies that will be resilient to future economic shocks. So we're excited to bring to you 6 different programs to help do that. Next slide. And as we think about the $3 billion, we are looking to invest that in 3 major categories. The first is for jobs for today. The second is for communities built for all. And the third is regions for the future. When we think about jobs for today, we have 2 programs, the Good Jobs Challenge and the Travel, Tourism, Outdoor Recreation programs that are really designed to help with that. Under the Communities Built for All, what we're talking about today, the Economic Adjustment Assistance Program is really designed to help all communities really recover, but also think about being resilient for the future. We also have 2 other programs, our Indigenous Communities Challenge, which we will also have a webinar tomorrow that we focused on that if you're interested in joining us. And then we also have a Coal Communities Commitment, which is for those who may not have heard before. Of the $3 billion, we are committing $300 million specifically for coal communities. And for Regions for the Future, we have our Build Back Regional Challenge, which is a $1 billion challenge, and then our Statewide Planning, Research, and Networks program. And again, for more information, please do visit our website, eda.gov/ARPA, that's American Rescue Plan Act, and you will find information on all of these programs there. Great. So just a quick reminder for folks who may not be familiar with who the eligible entities are for EDA funding. We do have pretty broad authority to be able to give funding to a wide range of entities. We have them listed here, and I'll walk through each one. But the main folks that we are able to give funding to are district organizations of EDA designated economic development districts. We also can give funding to Indian tribes. So anyone who is a federally recognized Indian tribe or Alaska Native village or regional corporation. State and local governments or political subdivisions are also eligible for funding, and this includes special purpose units of state or local governments who are engaged in economic or infrastructure development activities. Institutions of higher education are also eligible, as well as public or private nonprofit organizations or associations that work with officials for the general purpose of political or for a general purpose political subdivision of a state. We do want to note that EDA cannot provide funding, though, to for-profit entities, so any small business, large corporation, or individuals. And as we think about this specific program, the Economic Adjustment Assistance Program, for those who are familiar with EDA, this is a program that we have had in the past, but we did want to call out a few things with the American Rescue Plan, the EAA program and goals. As I mentioned, we are making a coal communities commitment. We are focusing 300 million of the 300 billion to go towards coal communities, and specifically 200 million of that is going to come from the EAA program. So we will fund 200 of that coal communities commitment out of this Economic Adjustment Assistance NOFO. We are also looking to make sure that any project that will create jobs or contribute to a community or region's economic recovery is eligible. So in terms of nexus, this may be a term that folks are familiar with who are familiar with EAA in the past. For this program, really any project that can create jobs or contribute to a community's economic recovery is eligible. And that includes tribes. So tribes can apply to this, and as well as tourism projects. But do note there is also a separate Indigenous Communities Challenge and a travel and tourism program as well that you may be wanting to look at in addition to this one. In terms of flexibility, EAA is really EDA's most flexible program that we have. We have pretty broad discretion of the use of funds for this program. And funding is authorized to prevent, prepare for, and also respond to the coronavirus. And so any necessary expenses to respond to economic injury as a result of the pandemic is eligible for use. And we'll talk a bit more of that in the coming slides. As far as the award timeline, the funds expire for this program September 30th, 2027, so no funds can be dispersed after that date. And the funds do need to be obligated by September 2022. The period of performance for all projects must end by May 31st, 2027 to allow for closeout. So those are the key dates to think about in terms of timing. Next slide. And I will turn this over to my colleague, Craig Brustati, our Deputy Assistant Secretary for Regional Affairs. He will dive into more of the details of this program, and we will also take questions at the end.
Thanks, Michelle. I think you set us up nicely talking about EDA's real flagship program, the Economic Adjustment Assistance Program, our most flexible program. And because of that, I want to lean on the expertise of our Chicago Regional Director, Ms. Susan Brem. Susan and her team are in the front lines right now doing outreach and engaging communities to get the word out about these programs. And I would like to hear from her firsthand a little bit on how she talks to communities about this really flexible program. As you see right here, we can hit a wide range of projects, technical assistance to workforce to entrepreneurship. So Susan, when I'm thinking about the Economic Adjustment and Assistance Program, how would you help me as a stakeholder understand if I was a good fit for EAA in this $500 million?
Thanks, Craig. Yeah, I mean, I think this is an incredibly flexible program. You know, first you want to make sure that you're obviously an eligible recipient, and Michelle has nicely gone through that. But, you know, at the end of the day, EAA, Economic Adjustment Assistance funds, can be used for planning, for a strategy. They can be used for construction of infrastructure, other kinds of, you know, incubators, things like that. They can also be used for, you know, recovery programs. So I think in particular in the context of recovering from the pandemic, we've seen some successful projects under the CARES Act where, you know, a community has come together, a region has come together and, you know, is working with an economic recovery coordinator to facilitate the process of, you know, reimagining what the future is going to look like and how their particular assets in that region can be used to propel the economy and get things moving again. So it is a very flexible program. I think, you know, at the end of the day, you want to talk to your economic development representatives to better understand what kinds of projects can be funded. Also check, I mean, EDA has a long list of of public announcements of all of our awards, and that can give you some ideas of things that we've funded in the past that have
Yeah.
been successful and worked really well for communities.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I love starting with, I love it when folks start with our newsroom. Check out recent press releases on the types of projects being announced. I think we have quite a history. You can go back 6 or 9 months on our website alone and see the different projects that we're awarding. And you'll see in every corner of the nation, from Alaska to Florida and in between, we've got all sorts of different economic development approaches. One more question on this slide before we start to talking about some more details. Jobs created or jobs retained is often a focus for us. And with the pandemic, I know that a lot of communities are navigating the question of what type of work needs to happen, or where should we focus our priorities to maximize jobs created and jobs retained. And some folks are looking for that silver bullet, secret ingredient for their community that might connect with EDA. Susan, when you're thinking about jobs created, jobs retained right now, and the pandemic and our interest to recover quickly, do you have any words of advice to our stakeholders in the type of work that they might focus on or prioritize?
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of it depends on what's happening in your particular area. So if you have, a particular industry, obviously travel and tourism has been hit really hard. Retaining those jobs, putting people back to work in those areas is going to be a priority. So I would lean heavily into that. I think, economic development really is a bottom-up process, and particularly from EDA's perspective, we want to know what you need, and we will work with you to determine how best to fit your particular situation into our available funding.
Yeah, it's so funny. We often get the question, what is it that we need? What is it that EDA is looking for? And you nailed it, Susan. I think we're looking for the projects, the work, the strategies that you need, that the communities feel is going to be most compelling, most impactful, and drive the greatest change and capacity within the region. And that is absolutely going to look different on the East Coast versus the West, or a more industrialized area versus a rural area. I think our strength here in this program is the ability to reach communities where they're at and focus on the priorities that they need to address in the moment. So we'll talk through a few more questions in a bit, but now I want to get to what's next. Well, application period is open. Right now, you can go to grants.gov and access the Notice of Funding Opportunity. I mentioned earlier, we will be regularly updating our website with helpful materials, such as our frequently asked questions document for our programs. So don't hesitate to keep visiting, following our social media and other materials. But bottom line, get going. We want communities to get started. This webinar and our other webinars are just a conversation starter. We won't be covering all the details. It is really about getting into those NOFOs and then ultimately reaching out and connecting with your economic development representative. And I'll talk about that in a second. This is going to look fairly familiar in some ways, but also different in other ways. So for starters, we do have 7 investment priorities that are our North Star or guiding azimuth for this portfolio. So get to know our investment priorities. They are slightly updated and modified to reflect today's the needs of the economy today and this administration's priorities, most notably equity. equity. We want to build back better with a more equitable, accessible economic future for all citizens. That is our first investment priority. We also recognize that as more and more industries are becoming transformed or modernized through technology, that technology-based economic development is an increasingly important piece of EDA's portfolio. So TBED, or technology-based economic development, is now a new and exclusive investment priority. Those are posted on our website. You can get to know those just by visiting the website at Investment Priorities. Again, they will be our guiding North Star. We do want to be thoughtful stewards of our government resources, so we still will need to conduct critical environmental and historic preservation reviews. So if you are familiar with that process and sometimes the duration of that process, you know that, as I said earlier, it's time to get started now. We've got a lot of work to do this year. Michelle mentioned it on the top of the call, we have a spend date of next fall, so September of 2022. We have to obligate all of these funds, so please get going. I mentioned the importance of working with your economic development representative. EDA has a dedicated, at least one, and sometimes some of our larger states, sometimes two or even three, economic development representatives that are our eyes and ears and experts on the ground. They are our first-line customer support, and they know this portfolio. They've been working with this program, the EAA program, for years and years. And if you think you're a fit, you think you have a viable project for us to consider, I'd highly suggest you reach out to your economic development representative to discuss the potential and alignment with the portfolio. We do recognize that the stress right now is high, and especially more so in some communities, more so than others. So we do see a presumptive grant rate of 80%, meaning we can intend to fund up to 80% of projects using federal funds and 20% or more match. But because of the distress and the urgency right now, we do have the discretion to commit a 100% investment to a project, a 100% federal investment. That will be on a case-by-case basis, and our economic development representatives can work with you based upon to make that decision to determine viability and fit based upon resources and level of distress in your community. What's different, though, is that we may be entertaining some larger projects here. We may do some bigger investments. So check out I would say, encourage you to connect with your economic development representative. Work with them to evaluate the need, the scope of your project to help determine the best scale or range of funding you might be a fit for. EDA recognizes that the need and cost in some communities and some industries is very different than in others. And for that reason, we do not evaluate the scale of projects or the cost of projects in its competitiveness. So we often get, am I going to be able to compete for a grant when all I need is $500,000 to do this great work? Is that of interest to EDA? Or do I need to have more resources, more partners, or greater level investment at the 2 or 3 million? That's not the case. Susan and I talked it through earlier. I hope you caught that. We really hope to meet communities where they're at, so we can support them along their continuum. We have made some administrative improvements to the process. We hope that you'll take a look at the NOFO, the Notice of Funding Opportunity, get to know some of those changes. We hope that things are a little bit easier and simpler for folks this time around than in previous supplementals, such as our CARES work. And we continue to work on that in other ways. So be on the lookout, not only now, but in the coming year or two for more improvements in the way EDA is supporting our customers and taking a more modern approach to grant making. The theme here, though, if you hadn't heard it yet, things are live. Things are moving. We've got a lot of work to do, folks. So the notice of funding is available. I'd highly encourage you to get familiar with that and dig into it and start reading now. Please reach out to your local economic development district if you don't already have a relationship. They are great stewards for the visioning, strategic planning, and partnerships for our local regional economies. And they are great resources for you to help think through how you might participate or benefit in this programming. But third, maybe most importantly, once you've reviewed the NOFO or Notice of Funding, once you've connected, once you've connected with local stakeholders, and you think you have a viable project that's going to bring jobs or retain jobs for your region and increase economic resilience and capacity, reach out to that economic development representative with some questions. We are very busy right now, so one pro tip to you to make it as easy and quick for us to get back to you with any questions and engagement, please be organized and prepared. We've got a lot of material out there already, and I mentioned the importance of that Notice of Funding opportunity to bring specific questions, and hopefully we can help you get ready and accelerate your readiness to participate in this programming as quick as possible. With that, enough from me. I'd like to bring my colleagues back into the fold here. Susan, Michelle, and also I think our Chief Counsel, Jeff Roberson, is available as well to take some questions. I'd like to start off with one very popular question these days, especially with respect to this EAA portfolio, is can I resubmit my CARES proposal? Susan, I know you in Chicago and your team is navigating this quite a lot. Is there communities that might have submitted a proposal through our last COVID relief supplemental? How have you been responding to this one? Can I resubmit my CARES proposal?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the streamlining processes that we've incorporated into this this set of NOFOs. And so if you submitted under CARES Act, and we had way over subscription for the amount of funding we had available. So if you were unsuccessful under CARES Act and you would like EDA to reconsider the application as you submitted, you should send a letter certifying that the application materials haven't changed and that your matching share is still available, and EDA can reconsider your previously submitted application. If something has changed substantially, then you probably want to resubmit an application through grants.gov. We're not able to reconsider projects if they've changed substantially, just for competitive purposes.
Thanks, Susan. What about the second half of this one? Maybe I've got a public works proposal that I've just submitted last month. Can I just resubmit now and roll it into this ARPA programming for consideration?
You can. I think it depends on what your priorities are, and we have obviously our annual allocation that is also available, and I think talking to your EDR about the competitiveness of your project as you're preparing it is a great step. They can help advise you on on which programs to apply for.
Great. Talk to your EDR. I think that might have been the 10th time we've mentioned it. Get to know them, folks. They're great assets and can help you navigate this process. Jeff, number 2 here to our chief counsel. How much does EDA anticipate the EAA grants might be? I'm trying to evaluate if this is the right fit for me. What would you advise?
In the NOFA, we've suggested between 500,000 and 5 million, but that's just a suggestion. That is the range that we expect a lot of the projects to come in and be competitive. You can apply, though, for whatever size of project is appropriate for you. We'll let you know if it's too big for what we're seeing in our portfolio. But in general, somewhere between 500,000 and 5 million.
Jeff, while I got you, match is a popular topic. I think it's been mentioned well over a couple times in the Q&A thread. What's the match requirement for these grants? And will we be recognizing in-kind match?
So the match requirement is, generally speaking, going to be about 80%. There are circumstances where we might go above that, and those include instances where you are a tribe, where you've exhausted your local borrowing or taxing authority, or there's some special need happening, or the coronavirus is particularly bad in your area and you can demonstrate that. So there are opportunities for us to go above that. When it comes to calculating or accounting for in-kind match, yes, we can count in-kind match. It has to be quantifiable, and we have to be able to verify the valuation of it. But yeah, it can count.
This is always a more nuanced question. So if you're evaluating the type of match you have or the allowability of a certain type of in-kind match, that's the perfect type of question to elevate to your economic development representative. There's no shortage of different scenarios here in viability or allowability. It's hard to get to all of the scenarios on this webinar, so great question to bring to the regional team. Michelle, we've made a bold coal commitment, and through this program alone, $200 million, we're going to invest in coal communities. How does EDA recognize eligible coal communities? Can you talk through what we might be looking for to identify a community being eligible for coal?
Great question. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Craig. So how EDA is thinking about coal communities, there's no predefined list of impacted coal communities. We are really looking at coal communities that they can be included by ones that were outlined, if those are familiar with the Interagency Working Group report that the White House put out, but also communities and regions that can reasonably demonstrate how changes in the coal economy have either resulted or are anticipated to result in job losses and layoffs in any coal reliant sector. So if you take a look at our website, again, eda.gov/ARPA, there's a specific page on coal commitments, and we do lay this out a little more clearly and can certainly find more information there as well. And we have some frequently asked questions that may help you determine whether your community is eligible.
Thanks, Michelle. I think the often overlooked point on this one, when folks think about the impacts of the transition in the coal industry, they often think about mining and production, and they don't think about the supply chain, the manufacturing, and other industries that are impacted. And EDA, we recognize that this transition is impacting a variety of industries. So you might be a secondary or tertiary impacted community, but we can assess that, and we certainly would welcome proposals from those communities if there's a clear connection. So please take a look at those considerations. Susan, I know your team is already fielding questions about the big Build Back Better regional challenge. This is a $1 billion challenge, and we're able to support a lot of the activities through that program as we are in the EAA program, this program, Economic Adjustment and Assistance. How is your team communicating with customers and how to navigate these two different program offerings? Any tips or suggestions to folks navigating or evaluating whether or not they're a fit for EAA or Build Back Better?
Yeah, definitely. I think, one of EDA's hallmarks is encouraging regional development. So Build Back Better, really emphasizes that. And I think where you have and are able to make those connections with others in your region, those can be very effective Build Back Better programs. Where you don't have as much of a regional focus, or where that effort is earlier in the process, I think EAA, allows you to come in for an individual project without, respect to what else might be happening. So for Build Back Better, those are really intended to be kind of at least somewhat coordinated in the approach. What's the theme? What are you trying to really, what kind of major impact can you make with a group of projects? The EAA program is, a better fit for one-off projects where there's, you might have a number of different issues or challenges that you're trying to resolve, and you can have different EAA projects coming in from different areas.
Yeah, ultimately, Build Back Better, we're looking to fund 3 to 8 aligned projects all at once. So I couldn't agree more. That regionalism and a coalition of aligned actors around a single vision for our region is really the paramount crux of that program. It is the big differentiator versus more maybe independent or earlier stage projects that we could reach under the EAA program. Well said, Susan. I have seen a bunch of questions around match continuing in the thread, so I want to clarify one thing before I go back to Michelle on submitting multiple projects. So specifically, I think someone raised, so for an 80% match, my organization requested or required to provide 80% of the project funds. No, it's the opposite. So where EDA will strive to fund 80 to 100% of program costs under this funding opportunity. So EDA funds would fund 80%, matched by 20%, or in unique, heavily distressed circumstances, depending on project and scope, EDA may choose to provide 100% of project costs or zero match. So for this notice of funding opportunity, EDA anticipates funding somewhere between 80 to 100% of the project costs. Hope that clarifies. We will not be asking communities for 80% of project costs. All right, Michelle, I have seen 5 or 6 webinars now. I'm thinking about submitting multiple projects under the American Rescue Plan programming. What would you suggest to communities evaluating multiple submissions?
So certainly we welcome multiple submissions. However, we do strongly encourage to just submit one single project to one specific NOFO. So for example, if you have one project, it is not advisable that you send that same project and proposal to multiple NOFOs. We will get it, and we even have the discretion if we believe it should fall under a different NOFO, we can move it to the appropriate one that we think is the best fit for that. So certainly if you have different projects in your region, we certainly encourage as many projects, unique different projects to be submitted, but please just submit each unique project one time.
Well said, Michelle. help us help you, folks. So the more focused you can be with your application, the quicker we can review and process and get communities these critical resources. By taking a more scattered approach or applying to everything, it slows down our processes and prevents us from getting you answers and clear answers and actionable resources as quickly as we'd like. Last but not least, how do I connect with my economic development representative? I am excited about this. I think I've got a great project. Well, folks, right here, eda.gov/contact. You click on your respective regional office and drill down to your respective state, and you can find your economic development representative's information. But again, I'd respectfully request that you reach out once you reviewed the notice of funding opportunity, evaluated your eligibility, and scoped out the ideas and the strategies that you have so you can have or present some specific questions. We are really getting inundated with questions right now. So the more you can help us help you with prepared, organized remarks and how we can get to them through email or phone, we'd really greatly appreciate it. I think I have hit all the critical questions, but would defer to the team, Michelle, Susan, Jeff, any others that have come through that might be worth closing out with.
Yeah, the one question that I saw a couple of the times is how do we as a nonprofit deal with the demonstration of local cooperation and coordination? And that's usually done through a letter of support or maybe a resolution from a local or state level entity. It's not a particularly difficult bar to cross. So just need to show that there's some sort of local support for your project.
Thanks, Jeff. I do see a couple that were asking about, can I apply for more than one project? We just discussed whether or not you should submit multiple proposals for the same project across different programs. It's plausible that you might be eligible for a travel and tourism project that would also be fit for EAA. But we addressed that, and we emphasized focusing on best fit and a singular application. And Michelle mentioned that EDA does have the discretion to move a proposal from one program to another program if we feel it's going to be more competitive under that funding opportunity. So that's a little different than, can I apply for more than one project? Yes, you can. And I think we anticipate that might happen where our travel and tourism and outdoor recreation industries have been hit extremely hard, and we know that there's an exceptional need in those industries, but that's not all. So perhaps communities might have a really compelling transformational travel and tourism project, but also might have a need for some more basic infrastructure or workforce training, and they could participate in the EAA program. But focusing on fit, alignment, and quality, I think should set you up for success, and less focus on volume and maximizing my chances. We're really looking for quality stuff so we can do things differently. We can reinvest in the economy and in a way that will build an equitable recovery and get us to building back better as the president charges us. With that, I think we've run through them all. I appreciate everyone's engagement today. We have more of these coming. So stay tuned to our social media and our website. We continue to amplify materials and webinars to support our customers as we get underway to taking action here. Get onto that website, download that notice of funding opportunity, and get going, folks. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.